What an epic upset that Australia has had. Because in 2007 and now 2026, Australia have now lost both their World Cup encounters to Zimbabwe. Now, this loss has put them on the brink of elimination and they may not even make it to the Super 8s. But there are a lot of permutations and combinations here because suddenly now Group B has been thrown wide open. With Australia losing to Zimbabwe today, there is a good chance that Sri Lanka and Zimbabwe will make it to the Super 8s. Australia will need other results going their way, but their chances are not getting any easier. Travis Head, who's the current stand-in skipper for Australia, mentioned that, look, we were in a similar position in 2023 in India during the ODI World Cup and we came out on the right side of it. Now they'll have to go back to the blueprint and ensure that they win on a consistent basis now, because it's now do or die for them. It's Australia who are in that territory, but looking at the list of injuries and the lack of bowling penetration that they had, only 2 wickets seems very hard. Now, this is the situation. Australia are staring at an early elimination after Zimbabwe loss because they only have 2 games left. Sri Lanka and Zimbabwe have won both their games. But there might be a situation also where 3 teams can be on 6 points. Now, how is that going to happen? Firstly, let us look at what are the fixtures. On February 16th, that is a do or die match, versus Sri Lanka in Palakele. That's on February 16th. Then your last league encounter is Oman on February 20th, also in Palakele. Both are night matches. Now, Australia will have to do that change because they started their Ireland game at 3 p.m. They have played a 11 a.m. game. Now, at the night time with the dew and everything, Sri Lanka is going to present a totally different challenge to them. So, that is why now Sri Lanka versus Oman, and that also Sri Lanka and Oman, these are the last 2 games for Australia. What about Sri Lanka? They face Australia on February 16th and they take on Zimbabwe in a 3 p.m. game in Colombo on February 19th. So, they are playing another night game and a day game. What about Zimbabwe? Zimbabwe now face Ireland on February 17th in Palakele and Sri Lanka in Colombo on February 19th. Both are day games. Now, the equation is very, very simple. For Australia to qualify, they need to beat both Oman and Sri Lanka. Then, if they lose to Sri Lanka, then they can only get to 4 points, and Sri Lanka then will get to 6. Then they have to hope that Zimbabwe lose both their games to Ireland and Sri Lanka, and Australia win big against Oman. That is the situation which could happen. If Australia lose and Ireland beat and Zimbabwe beat Ireland, game over. Australia can only get to 4. Zimbabwe and Sri Lanka will be on 6 points. They will go through. So, X2, which is marked for Australia, could very well go to Zimbabwe at this point in time. What about Sri Lanka? Win 1 or 2 games or win both. Win both outright, they'll go through. If they win against Australia, then that's it. They are all but through to the Super 8 stage because their net run rate is also great and they beat either Zimbabwe or Australia. Then only Australia can get to 4, then Sri Lanka then will seal their spot. If they lose to Australia and Zimbabwe, they will be eliminated. Because remember, they'll be stuck on 4 points. Zimbabwe can get to 6, Australia can also get to 6 if they beat Sri Lanka and Oman. So, if Sri Lanka lose both their games, they are eliminated. So, that is why they have to win against Australia tomorrow to seal their spot. For Zimbabwe, 2 wins, one against Oman, one against Sri Lanka, against Australia. Now, what they have to do? Win one of their games and hope Australia lose to Sri Lanka. What that will happen is, if Australia lose to Sri Lanka, Zimbabwe beat Ireland, they are through. If they lose both games to Ireland and Sri Lanka, hope Australia lose to Oman and Sri Lanka. But knowing that Oman, it's a slight problem. Australia might huff and puff their way and win. But they need to win against either Ireland or Sri Lanka. And that is why now Australia, the mess that they are into, they have only themselves to blame. No way can you ensure that, okay, this is the current situation that is there with them. In the T20I format, 22, 24 and now 26, their struggles are really, really real. And that's why Australia are on the brink of elimination, not yet officially eliminated, but it was a major upset. And blessing Muzarabani, blessing has cursed Australia in more ways than one. Thank you so much, folks, for joining us for this video. Subscribe to Sports Today for all the latest news and analysis.